Hello everybody and welcome to COVID Cocktails with John Weisbarth. I am your host, the aforementioned John Weisbarth, and today on the show we are making the most classic of all cocktails, even more classic, dare I say, than a dirty martini shaken and not stirred. I, of course, am speaking of an old-fashioned, but this one has a newfangled twist. That's called clickbait. All right, a couple of programming notes before we get started here. First, the cocktail thing. Listen, I know that these are uncertain times, and I am by no means suggesting that you deal with the day's uncertainty by turning to the bottle. I am, however, suggesting that you deserve a treat at the end of the day, because these days are long, especially if you're homeschooling like I am. And if your idea of a treat is mixing a fun cocktail before your virtual happy hour, then congratulations, you're in the right spot. If not, listen, there's literally a billion hours of programming on YouTube. You'll find something else to watch. Second thing, I'm not a mixologist. I don't have a leather apron, and I've never worked as a bartender, other than the one time I did at my buddy Will's older sister's wedding. Worked a martini bar. I didn't get paid. I did get to keep the tips though, so that was pretty sweet. The thing is, this isn't a bartending class, okay? I'm not gonna make all of these cocktails super traditionally. I may not measure out the alcohol pours exactly. I've been known to have what doctors refer to as a bit of a heavy hand. That's just how I make it, okay? I'm literally the guy that's like teaching you how to fish as opposed to giving you the fish, okay? I'll show you how these cocktails come together. You figure out how you wanna make them. How I make them on the show is how I like to drink them. If that's not you, well then experiment. That's the whole point of this. Enough about that. Let's get into an old-fashioned. Now, an old-fashioned has been around a long time. Starts with bourbon. You like that? That's a distiller. Nope, that's not a distiller. That's a decanter. Nice music, though. All right, back to the show. It makes the bourbon look fancy. It also serves another purpose. Look at how ridiculous. This is just Bullet Bourbon. Look how ridiculous the size of this bottle is. I mean, not only is that embarrassing to like buy at the store, people are like, oh my, that guy is gonna be drinking a lot. I mean, it is a little embarrassing. It's also not like the easiest thing to handle and pour, and it just doesn't, I don't know, it makes me feel awkward. So I take it and I pour it in here, and then I feel cool. And then people are like, oh, fancy bourbon. I'm like, well, it's Bullet. And by the way, programming note about Bullet Bourbon, I like Bullet. I think it's like the Tito's of bourbon. It's a good, solid bourbon. It doesn't cost a lot of money. So that's what I like to mix my cocktails with. Okay, enough of that. The thing about the old-fashioned is, like its name implies, it's been around a long time. I mean, at least since the 1860s. And actually, the idea of mixing sugar and bitters and maybe a little citrus into distilled spirits is even older than that. So much so that in like 1860s in Louisville, Kentucky, when someone was making an old-fashioned, they said, oh, you're making that cocktail the old-fashioned way. Boom. That's a bonus thing you can bore your friends with at your next virtual happy hour. Okay, so it is bourbon. It's bitters. I like Fee Brothers bitters. We could do a whole show on bitters. We're not, because that'd be super boring. But all you need to know is that this is a flavoring agent. Cherries, Luxardo cherries. You have to get these cherries. You notice the color? Look at that. They're not neon pink. And then for sweetener on these, I don't use a cube of sugar muddled in water like an original recipe does. I actually like to use this. What is that? That is agave nectar. And I use it for sweetener in about all of my stuff. And then obviously, the last thing is some citrus. I like to do orange in mine. Okay? Good.
One more time for you visual learners. I'm using bourbon, but you could use rye or really any other whiskey you'd like. Then it's bitters. These are aromatic bitters. Then cherries. And just do yourself a favor, use the Luxardo ones, okay? Then agave nectar for sweetener. And finally, some citrus. Let's make one.
Here's how it comes together. Got a glass back here. All right. I start with the citrus. I like to use these little guys. This is actually a pretty big tangerine. You could use an orange, but an orange is pretty big, and unless you're making like a whole bunch of them, you're gonna end up wasting a lot of the orange. So I like a little bit of smaller citrus. I'll cut it in half, and then I'll cut myself a little slice to garnish later, and then boom, right into the cup. Right? And I'm telling you, I like citrus in my old fashioned. Purists right now are just like dying. Next up, these cherries. Look at these cherries. Look at that in there. Can you see that in there? It's so good. And I'll take some of this syrup. This lacks some of the sweetening agent too. Look at that. And look at that syrup. Oh, it's so good. That dark color, I love it so much. Now, bitters. Here's the thing about bitters. I like bitters a lot. It's, they give a spiciness to the bourbon. Now, if you love bourbon, you have a really flavorful bourbon, don't use it in an old fashioned. Drink it on the rocks, okay? But if you want to make one of these and you want to spice it up a little bit, take some of the sweetness out of it, 1 or 2 dashes, great. I told you I love bitters, so I'm like 5 or 6 dashes, okay? That probably has enough sweetener in it, but just in case if you wanted a little bit, you could put just, I mean, whoop, that's it. Not a lot of the agave nectar, it's really good. And then that is my base. Then ice is next. I mean, if you don't have big cubed ice yet, do yourself a favor and get it, okay? As you can see, I've used some of it. But these cubes, I mean, that just makes, it just feels like a cocktail should feel, right? So I put that in there, and then all I have to do is add the bourbon. 2 shots of bourbon, sure. Maybe I'm gonna do a little bit more. I don't know. That looks right to me. Could you even hear what I said when I put that down there? Not great audio. Also don't have an audio guy, so yeah, 2 shots looks good. And then I just give it a little stir. Here we go. Look at that color. Oh, I love that color. Again, I'm the only one here drinking. Throw that bad boy in there. And that is a COVID cocktail that you can be proud of. Hang on. Oh, it's perfect. God, that's so good. Oh, and look, yeah, it's 3:30 on a Sunday. Should I be drinking a cocktail right now? I don't know. I am. You show up to your next virtual happy hour with one of these, people are like, whoa, fancy guy, what'd you do? Oh, nothing. Just mixed myself an old fashioned. Boom. Pretty simple, right? 1, 2, 3, 4 ingredients if you don't count the ice, right? Piece of cake. 5 with that. COVID cocktails. Cheers. See you next time.
Make sure to ring that notification bell and smash that like button. See you next time.
What he said.